Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Matt Dickinson. We are taking a look at how to re-engineer one of the world's most famous exoskeletons, which is the Hardiman. This is, as a recap, this is the world's first fully powered exoskeleton. Sadly, the project was never completed. However, we are determined to try and get some type of a model back. In this exercise, what we're doing is we're using reference images that were captured by GE during their experimental period, and we're trying to piece together as many pieces that we can to try and figure out sizes, dimensions, and using as many reports that were produced in the 60s to see what decisions were made, so it will influence the design that we actually produce from this. Purely the idea is let's see if we can redesign and recreate some of the lost images and some of the lost designs, because at the moment we have no direction as to whether this exoskeleton still exists. If anybody on the chat knows more than myself about where this has happened, if anybody knows about where the famous Hardiman actually is, please do put a comment in the video below, just because myself and a few others are extremely interested to find out what happened to Hardiman. Anyway, let's get straight to it. String you right down. So, as a bit of a reminder, this is what we had. Now, I've just done a little bit of extra. So last week we put in our average sizes. Now, this is based on Moshe's being the rough average size of a male in the 60s, which is 5'8". So what we did is we used software to give us a proportional aspect to tell us roughly how big everything would be. From there, we've used this reference image which is produced online. This has then been used, and now what we're going to do is use this to try and start piecing together sizes, start piecing together overall pieces to give us an idea as to where everything is, and to give us an idea as to if this is something realistic. Apologies, at the moment as we're speaking, I am just attempting to pull some of my images so we can just take a quick look. Here we go. Right. Pull it across. So this is where we're targeting. This is Moshe himself, but this is where we're targeting. We're just looking at the arm. This is 1965, I think. I may be slightly out with that, but this is 1965. This is the first original concept with it. Lots to learn from this. If we just look around it, you can see there, this is covered in hydraulics and servos, large servo systems. Servos, they are still used, but not like this. I mean, we end up with all different types of actuators at the moment. They may be DC, they may be brushless, they may be brush, they may be stepper, they may be servo. There's so many different options right now. But what we have here is the overall shape and what we're going to chase. And today, what we're going to do is see if we can use a little bit of logic, a little bit of sense, and figure out if we're getting something sensible. First things first, let's get back to the original drawing. What you'll see here, all I've done is I've chopped this and I've added this on the right plane using the exact same techniques, but what I've now got is a proportion. I've got a bit of an idea as to where everything sits. So what I'll do is I'm just going to rename I just realized I've not renamed that image. So ref image, I'll call that side. And what I'll now do is I'm going to try and use as many different techniques as I can to extract the profiles. We're going to do very, very clumsy at first. What I'm really chasing at the moment is the jaw head. To give you an idea, this jaw head here, just want to try and pluck out where this actually is in space. This is very clumsy design, but what it does is it gives us a rough idea as to where everything is initially meant to be. The trouble is, I don't know what the origin of this drawing is. In other words, I don't know who did it. Because I don't know who did it, it leaves a little bit like, well, is that right? I think it's right, but yeah, thinking and actually, is it really right? I'm not sure yet. Anyway, so let's just see if we can get this roughly together. Again, all I'm doing here is using this as a trace. We're not going to spend an awful lot of time. This isn't like the axe that we did. With this, what I'm trying to do here is simple. I am just trying to get myself an overall shape. Do remember, this is probably far from the actual origin, the real design itself. So what we're doing here is using whatever we can, any types of reference we can, to try and give us a bit more of an insight as to, is it even right? Is it remotely right? So I'm going to go dimension wise, because I'm putting this rad onto here, this is just trying to capture into consideration of what it is at the back. Now I can see here, you can see that this looks up the piece, but you've actually got a real lean over here. So there's an awful lot going on here, and what I'm actually going to try and do is build this up piece by piece, but our focus is the end jaw. I'm just going to put a rad onto the end, so let's go here and then here. You look there and it's not giving me, you can actually see it's actually appearing there. Too small, so I'm going to jump that up. Let's go 25, maybe a little higher, let's go 26.
Music licensing reimagined.
28. 28 is getting me a little bit closer. I'll go with 28. I can always come back and change that, but that's now give me an overall shape there. This tooth here, what this is meant to be, and I don't quite like this, but what this is meant to be is meant to be this section here, which, yeah, well, yeah, whether that is or not, a little bit of an argument, I would say. Right. So what we've got there is the overall tooth from that side. I'm then going to come from this plane now, and I'm going to go sketch. And now what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and be as smart as I can here. I'm going to go here to here to here to here to here to here.
Reimagined.
Now I know you're probably thinking there's an awful lot of straight lines here. There is a lot of straight lines. I'm going to use this geometry to my advantage. I can always, I don't have to go in straight away doing 20,000 fillets. I come across this every day. So many people go, oh, well, I'm going to put a fillet on. And sometimes you kind of go, well, why are you putting that fillet there? Yeah, and most of the time people put it on there because they want things to aesthetically look nice. Which, you know, you can't blame people, but at the same time, tone it down. Don't go so crazy. Sometimes you just don't need that. So what I'll do is I'm just going to drop off my references. So I'm going to hide these, turn them off as visible, and now we've got these interface pieces. Now, this is where it gets really tricky. So let's come across and then let's go projection. So what I'm going to do is use my 3D sketch. If you've never done this before, you'll love this. I love this myself. So I'm going to do an intersection of the curves from you and also from you. And then, okay. Now, this is interesting. I knew this was going to happen. I spotted this just a moment ago. Look at that. That is coming because the intersection between here to here is correct, but here to here isn't correct. In other words, it's too low. So to make this really work, this needs to be pushed up. But I need to just look. So if you look at where this edge sits here, where that end comes to here. So if I come back across, so you've got to be very careful as we're moving forwards. This is my point. Come back across. You can see there. You can make a good educated guess that between there and there, because when you actually look at the piece itself, it comes straight down. If you come back to the actual jaw itself, that doesn't say that. So this needs to be moved up. So what I'm going to do before I even continue, if you've ever done this type of work before, you'll know this happens all the time. Trying to piece together from segments, fragments of a design is incredibly tricky. But look at that. In fact, I've just noticed this.
Music licensing
Right, so if we
reimagined.
let me just come to this drawing. I won't spend too long here just because I know I can rabbit on. But it's just because it's vital. So if I bring that way across there, look at that. It's actually out. Now, what I want to know is, if it's out that far there, let's have a look. Let's measure you. 12.961. Right, now bear with me. What we want to do is do the same thing again here. We're trying to get some, because you got to remember, this is hard what we're doing. Now the beauty is we've got a distance here. If this is proportional in its distance across, I should be able to just shift it. Oh my days. 12.69. Oh, okay. So that's actually slightly in the differ. So these are slightly different scale size. But what I'll do, I'm gonna try it, but I don't think that's going to do me any good. But we'll have a look. So if I come back again, I'm just going to measure that onto there. Let's go distance from you to you. Oh, right, so I'll come back on again, go there to there, and we've got 13.643. I'll use that as my final value, so 13.6. And what I'll do is come back over to my original drawing here, and I think I should even go to the reference. Let's just edit on that reference, and let's move the reference from this point, and I want to use an exact precise input, and we'll go Y of 13.6.
Artlist.io. I.O.
Ah, now this has been twisted. That's why I'm in the wrong one. Apologies. If you look over here, I went blank then. Look here. It's actually this 13.6. Just because I forgot that I've actually rotated this earlier. So that's what it's actually doing. Look at that. That is not 13.6 that we're looking at. Not convinced, if I'm absolutely honest. Is this talking in centimeters then?
Artlist.io.
Okay, 1.36. Finish on that. Let's have a look.
Music licensing reimagined.
No, that didn't work. So what I'm going to do is come back to here, and I'm going to turn this off for the moment, and I'm going to change these myself. It's just that I give it a go. Again, this is me moving it as I'm going along, if you will. So what I'll do from here is I like to give a bit of a marker. So let's go to the end point. I'll go to this end point to give me a key point for marking. And I'm just going to move it, but I'm going to move the whole thing. And I'll move it. Just get you onto the right plane like that. Just gonna move it from here. Best size of here. Let me just pull into here. I'm just going to put a construction line onto here, just to give me a reference. Now, what I'll do is move it. And I'll bring this over top to here and then bring it across, and then let's try that. So you can see there I've got my linear lines, just give me an idea of my moving in the right plane that I want to, and I am.
Artlist IO.
So I'm going to go from this point to
Music licensing reimagined.
command. Okay. So now what I'll do is go back to a 3D sketch, and then from this sketch let's do an intersection of you and you, and then go OK. Now what we get is we get the overall scope itself. This is pretty good. I'm pleased with this. Gives me an overall structure. It's still a little bit out. If you look at that, it doesn't actually follow all the way back down here. So I'm going to prioritize one side in this case. I'm going to come back, and this needs to be correct for us to be able to work on this. So I'm going to again come back to the sketch of the second one, which is the one that I'm modifying and moving around. And then I'm going to simply do another piece. So I'm going to do a projection and take it on this point here. This just gives me an idea of where everything sits. And I'll come on to the left side, and what I'd like to do now is come to my line itself and just snap you onto there and bring you across. And then from there now, I can simply go to move. Oh, no, sorry, not move. I'm going to bring this in, and I'm going to make this line go linear, and that should not do what I wanted it to. So let me just go U calling it to here, and go U calling it to here.
Music licensing reimagined.
Bring them back for here, and then I should now be able to do an intersection between you and you, and then click OK, and now we have still just slightly out. Is that how frustrating? Oh my giddy aunt! Goodness, I'm not having good luck today. Look at that. So I'm going to get rid of that. That didn't do what I just presumed that was just coming from the right spot, but it actually isn't. It's coming. No. Let's try this. So I'm going to mark off and try and bring a line from that point. Is where I wanted it to be. My goodness, what a day! What a day! Right, so then I'll do a collinear between this line and this line to bring that stuff together. Now I'll do a sketch between 3D sketching, and I'll do an intersection between you and you, you and you, and then go OK. This now connects like I wanted it to. We've now got an overall framework. So it's been a little bit backwards and forwards, I get that. I'm just going to call this in fact, I'll just hide that for the moment, and I'm just going to operate on this particular piece itself. So again, what we're chasing today is this close section, the claw. But you know what I mean. We're chasing that as a profile. So what I would now like to do is see if we can start to construct this as a piece, as a claw piece. Can we actually try and get? Now, I'm not going to bring in the extra image just yet, but we just want to try and get this together. So let's start with our patching. Good old patchwork. If we can make this patchwork based, oh my goodness, what a happiness that will be. Oh, look at that. That's actually not worked at all. Brilliant. That's not worked. This purely really hasn't worked, just because of the amount of profiles that's moving in between it. It won't work, so what we'll do is just try some more across. Oh, look at this. Oh, now we've got an automatic chain. I'm going to try and do manual chaining across here. If you've never done patchwork before, it's a really good tool. It can tie you up in knots, but if you just treat it as a planar tool, it will, you know, it will do you good, or it will just screw you over in many forms. So what I'll do is bring in. I'm going to do my. I'm going to do some multiples. So I'm going to snap you into there like that. I'm going to bring you onto there like that. Think of this is I'm trying now to give it a skeleton. The skeleton I can use to build on. Without this skeleton being present, it makes it incredibly difficult. So we're using these projection pieces. Now, if you follow me with the axe was a very, very simplified version of what we're doing here. But getting this to move like we want it to can be a little bit tricky. And all I'm going to do now is just keep piecing small sections together. And this will just give me a bit of an insight as to how well it's pieced, how well it works. Is it something I can use to allow me to build other things? Now you'll notice when I was doing the patchwork a moment ago, I actually removed the automatic chain. I'll show you automatic chain. Click on there and then on there, and it just goes, what? That's not what we're after. So what we're actually after in this case is we're after being able to construct sections. So that section, that section, that section, that section, that section. Whoops. That section. There. There. Now you look at that, we've got a single piece. Yes, it's what we want. Now this will happen to you. You'll go, oh, don't worry. Bring it back and continue to build. We'll save in a minute. Now continue to build. All I'm going to do is follow my profile around and go OK. And it's messy, it's clunky, it's not going to make you happy just yet. But we are going to move into a happiness phase at some point where we can really start to fuse all this together. But we need to start somewhere, and that's what we're doing right now. If you look here though, this is interesting. If you look here, you see how it flows round, it gets sticky. Very, very tricky as well. So what I'm going to do is just keep building this up, work my way across. That bend, I don't think it's going to like. Now you've got to remember, we're talking 1960s, and the idea of being able to create very complex profiles was tricky just because the tech was very much unseen and unheard of. So what this means is if I just scroll right back to my original my continued skeleton, as I keep referring to it, I'm going to just use that. That then allows me to have another further panel piece to build up, and you should now be starting.
Music licensing reimagined.
You should now be starting to see. So you know it's actually scrolling correctly. You should now be starting to see roughly how this thing gets put together. If I just put a point on here as well. Again, I'm just using this as a skeleton, as a way for the system to understand how I want this to be built. Now this is a sharp edge here. Again, that's how this would be brought over across. And as I said, I am very keen and very interested in seeing if this can be rebuilt. Can we actually get this to a position where it's going to be something that we can examine and look at? Do we have the tech? Now, I know it sounds like something from what I used to watch, but do we have the tech? Do we have the technology to be able to actually rebuild this? And could we get the world famous Hardiman working? Which is very cool, very cool. Right, so that's constructed a little further, and I'm just going to patchwork again. So you can see there what I'm doing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause for a second, and then you're going to see this complete. Okay, so Now what we've actually got is something a little bit more realistic, but you kind of look and go, is there a face missing from there? This happens to me all the time. I kind of look and think, you know what, I'm not sure if I've got everything. What I'm going to do is just turn off my 3D sketches and can actually look around. You look and go, oh, look at that. It's actually missing loads. This is a very, very common one. Don't get caught out with this. I get caught out with this all the time. I look and go, oh, hell, I've missed one. So what I'll do is just flip this back on. I'm just going to turn my lower one on. And I'm going to patchwork this one up very, very quickly. So here, and again patchwork here. And again, I'm after that overall geometry, so don't be too shy about making it, as I've said to some before, making that commitment, make it work. And the other thing is, if I edit on here, oops, you'll notice there is a curve there. That's going to get a bit messy. Is it something I can recover? It probably is, but I think we'd need a piece that comes down to here, or a piece that comes across here. So what I'll do is I'll come back and make that visible, and I'm just going to now add on to my sketch. So I'll edit on that sketch. I'm going to add a line which goes here to here. And then okay, and I think that will just allow me to finish the all important pieces. And then what we need to do is to forge this to see if this is something that is going to be useful. So I'm just going to quickly patch that up. And again, I'm using it. The reason I like to stay with patches in something like this is because of the year this was made. This would not have been very sophisticated curves. They would not have been interested in very sophisticated curves. When you see the device, you look and go, yeah, okay. So what I'm doing is I'm bringing this together as one single piece, and then what I'm just simply doing is I'm going to stitch this together. So if I stitch this together like so, and then apply, we've now got a solid piece. Okay, so we got it. This is the first piece. It's a big chunky piece, and what I'm really trying to establish now is this something that can be used as a realistic representation? So what I mean is, if I lay this like this, like that, is this something that's a true rep? So let's just swing back to Marshall's original image. Let's bring this in. Can I bring it in anymore? I don't think I can. I think I might need to download this image. Download the image. And let's take a look a little bit deeper to the image itself. Okay, so here we go. So let's just take a look. You see here the actual piece comes down. We've got that frame, so if we let that flat, we're starting to get roughly how this would sit. Now, what's interesting here is we've got these mount points. We're going to need to decide what these are as we're going along. However, let's not rush things. We're looking to get the overall geometry right now. So let's get rid of that for the moment. And as a basic step forwards, it's not bad. It's not bad. So let's go side by side. Just bring this up a little bit. Over here. Let's come to here. Right. So let's take a look. Okay. So it's not bad. It's not bad. There's a few areas for improvement. Now, what's interesting is I can probably imagine a few will be sitting there going, "That's not what we're looking at." Now, I actually think what this is this is a mirrored effect. So in other words, what we're actually looking at is that. Now, I still think there, if you look at that as a step, that's not quite right. So what I'd like to do is quickly go back to the image. Let's just take a look at the images. Let's go to the image view.
Music licensing reimagined.
What I'll do for this one at the moment is I'm just going to hide that. As a piece, we can see there that's how it's been fashioned. And looking at that there looks to be an angle there, there looks to be a slight angle there, and it looks like we actually have a slight wedge here. So, if that's that slight wedge here, we do kind of look and go, you know what, this could be it. So let's go back to it. So I go to visible. Back on because I've actually hidden it. So if I go to visible, bring this back on, we go, okay, so let's get rid of the reference images for the minute. I'm going to spin that back out, and this is possibly, and I say that very, very lightly, possibly what we are looking at. Now, the issue that I've got here is it's not a true representation of what this actual structure is. If you look there, we've actually got a more of a flat piece that's coming across. So if I bring this up, you can see there, this flat piece seems to move all the way across. So I'm not 100% convinced at the moment, and this does need quite a bit of modification. However, is it something that's realistic? So what we need to do is just think about how this has been put together. So if I come back to the reference image, these reference images here, flip it over. Now, according to these images, and we're going to have to take this with a very, very light pinch of salt. According to these reference images, if you look here, we have a swinging arm piece here. This is suggesting that the whole thing could rotate around, and this section here would rotate entirely around. How true that is, I don't know. We are going to have to go back through the original documentation and just see. Okay. So, based on this, based on his original sizing, if we just take a rough average guess, so let's come back to the solid piece. There you are. Let's go back to the solid piece. And I'm going to hide the reference image for the moment. And let's just have a look at the deltas in this, or the overall length of what we're actually visualizing here. Once we get this overall length and we start to look a little bit happy with what we're getting, it just tells us an awful lot. So if you look from there to there, and that's to the edge piece, regardless of what actually that edge is there, whether it's linear or if it's coordinate like I have from the drawing. Measure, let's go U to U. Now you look there, we've got, that's just a distance across, we call the delta. In this case we're looking at Y direction. That suggests 100, and that's 12.5 centimeters. So that's just saying there to there is 12.5 centimeters. So if we just think about that,
Music licensing reimagined.
So, the average ruler length, for example, is 30 centimeters. That's 12.5 centimeters. Is that something that's realistic? And, but if we go back to our proportions, so that's just on this end plate here. Now the thing is, another thing, just looking at this as an observation. Look at that. Look at this as an observation. Bring this back. This section actually comes to the thumb area point. So if we were going to place this out, we could start to guess. I'm not convinced that this is a good representation of what we're doing. If we look here, we've got an overall structure here is completely different. The beauty is it does give us a starting point. It gives us a great starting point. However, I'm not convinced that's correct at all. Not at all. So if we assume, for example, can I actually draw on here? I'm sure I can draw on here. Come on, there we go. So let's draw it here. Oh, look at that. The miracles. Okay, so if we assume that his hand is going to finish roughly around this point, gives us what? So his arm comes down here, and then it comes across to
Music
this point.
licensing
So the
reimagined.
mechanism is around in here that is interfacing with it. Right? So if that's to be the case, and if I come back to my original drawing, now we proportioned the drawing if you remember. So this is not just a bit of a drawing anymore. It's something we can actually use as a slight reference. I wouldn't go too heavy going, but it just allows us to see an overall referencing. So if we assume then that this length between here to here is actually going to be 314.8 millimeters, there to there, we can assume by default
Music
that
licensing reimagined.
in fact, yeah, look at that. If you look at the actual distance across between there, just ignoring this, it does give us a rough idea as to what that length could be. You see, what's interesting for me is where that pin set goes, if you will, this drawing. It's set too far in. The actual thing looking at this is set further back to the midpoint of this area here. So if it's set further back to that midpoint area, and that edge becomes where this line sits, we could actually try and roughly figure out what that distance will be. So if we let's give that a whirl, shall we, boys and girls? So this is going to be tricky, but we're going to get
Music licensing reimagined.
between that distance and that distance. So that gap across there, looks like that could actually be that key particular point, but it's not. I could be barking us down the wrong tree here completely. It's interesting. Sadly, looking at the drawing that's been produced for this, I don't think this drawing is of any real use. It gives us a rough idea how this thing was set out, but it is not a true representation of how this thing was really going to be put together. Okay, so we know that is 314.8 millimeters. Roughly, it's going to be like that. So if I just assume that length there, okay, so I'm going to draw a line from that tip to here, putting me at 241.8 millimeters. 25, well, it's actually 24.2 centimeters. 24.2, so almost like, yeah, okay, I can actually get with that. So that length between there to there is predicted to be 24.2. And then we have a slight offset here, so I'm going to come back. Let's go back to our original drawing. We're going to come back over here and let's just now take a look at the actual piece. Is it something that we can still use? Whoops, wrong thing. So I'm going to hide that as a visible piece. Now let's just take a look at the actual drawing itself. That's just not really not drawing much, just figuring sizing out. So it's 24.2. So let's do the tools to measure. Just slightly less.
Music licensing reimagined.
So it's a bit of a dead avenue is this one. And also look at the profile there. That profile there is completely incorrect from what I can see. Sadly, I think this is going to need a little bit of a step back. I'm not convinced that this drawing that we're using for the end piece is actually of any real proportional use with it. We can use this and we'll build onto this, but it's a little bit of a disappointment that I think we're going to have to move backwards a little bit to move forwards. So, I suspect we're going to have to take this a little bit more into depth and figure out what that length is going to be based on the average size of what's not being 5'8". But let's move forward a little bit. Let's see if we can still at least get this length together. So I'm going to like to put on perhaps a front reference, still visible. Just gives us roughly what we are looking at. That is from what I can see, that as a drawing up piece is not quite correct. It's not ideal for actually what we're meant to be doing, but whatever, we can still have a go. We can still try and make this work. Okay, so being this in, let's think about this. I use this flat base and
music licensing reimagined.
A little more together. I'm probably going to try and find some reference images. Based on these sizing though, the one thing I am happy with is the proportion of these lengths are correct. So I can actually use this. This does come to a key point of the spike, so we're going to spike that out there. We're going to shorten
Artlist.io.
I'm going to trim them areas back. And I'm just going to project this piece and this piece on. Let's do an extrusion. This extrusion piece is going to go right the way through the part itself. So let's go as a reverse direction, and as a reverse direction, we'll go right.
Music licensing reimagined.
It's not perfect at the moment, and this clearly has shambles on it. But what I'm now going to get is something here. Now, based on where that sits, I think that's a little bit over here. But what I'm going to do is just try and proportionally put this on. So I think what I'd like to now do is drop this off.
Artlist.io.
This off as this piece. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm probably now going to place this into Visio, and let's see if we can get a little bit more measurement going on.
Music
So 1
licensing
second.
reimagined.
Okay, so I place this into Visio, it just makes life easier, and we can operate a little bit around this. If you've ever used Microsoft Visio before, it is a fabulous tool for being able to extract data like this. It's so tricky being able to do what we're doing here. So yeah, I quite like it. Okay, so I've taken this to a spike. Spike looks a little heavy for me, but let's just see where we go with that. And what I'll do is move into a sketch. From my sketch from here, I'm just now looking. Look at this part. So let's just bring the image into. Yes. We bring this image in a little bit closer. Hand this a little bit over to the right. We have 1, 2, 3 key points.
Music
here.
licensing reimagined.
Yeah. Oh, look what a shame! Look at that. That actually looks like it could be the one. That is sure as hell not the one. Well, staying with the design, staying with what we have, I'm actually just going to fashion this to give you a straight angled line here. So I'm going to go line here to here and to there.
Artlist.io.
As you look there, it means that the plate itself sits roughly around there. And then we're going to give this a go and see how this works out. I'm very keen to actually try and bring this to life.
Music
Just because
licensing reimagined.
this machine is such an important piece of history as far as the development of this type of technology goes. that we cannot let this amazing piece of technology vanish into history, vanish into the catacombs of history. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and flatten this out. So I'm going to bring it in.
Artlist.io.
And we're going to come back over here, and I am literally now. I'm just using this as a cutting tool, and I know if anybody's going to put in the comments, I know there's a million ways quicker to do this cutting, but I'm doing it just because it's DJ, it's quick, and it does what I want it to do very, very swift. Right, so that then cuts that back. Okay, so this now gives me a rough starting point for where everything is going to sit now. So I've instantly spotted something. I don't know if anybody else has spotted this already, but if you look, we have an overall piece coming across. That itself is definitely higher. This piece, if you look there, is in line with this thickness. So this is completely out. Oh my goodness, look at that. Just fashioning this now, you can see how inaccurate this actually is. This linearized piece coming across, I could, in theory, I could put fillets onto here to actually create that profile there. But it's going to be tricky, I think. But let's just see. I'm just going to place a couple of fillets onto here, and again, oh, I know this is just because I'm going on piece here. So I'm just going to go onto a fillet. I don't think 2 millimeters is going to cut that after. It's not, so I'm just going a little bit higher, 4 millimeters. That just give me that overall piece and after. It's not perfect though. Yeah, look at that. This is really showing that drawing that I've been operating with is completely made up. A little bit annoying, but it's completely made up. However,
music licensing.
Let's just fashion this a little bit further. So I'm not giving up, and because I roughly have some level of dimension, I'm in the unknown, so I can do this and have a lot of fun doing it. So what I'm going to do is put a gap on here, and put this onto here, and then click OK. What this is now going to allow me to do is to just give a key point of where that will sit. So let's just say 5 for the minute. I've got a bit of a gap. Instantly I can see that it needs to be a little more, and then what I'll do on here as well is I'm going to stretch that out. Let's go 30. Jumbo, you know? Now, if we look at the overall distance that comes up, ignore all this, but just look at the overall distance that comes up. You start to look and kind of go, yeah, it's not quite right, then, is it? That's just not. So if I click on here and go OK. Now, from my experience of doing CAD, stuff like this happens all the time. You think you're in a good state, you think it's all going really excitingly well, and you go, yeah, it's going to be complete in a day. And then you go, oh my God, this is wrong. And the truth of it is we're now operating with a value, in this case, which is definitely incorrect. And what I mean by this is the drawing. The drawing is definitely incorrect. What I'm going to do is just offer a bit of a slight distance. So let's just go on.
Music licensing reimagined.
There is a dimension tool I was looking for, which is similar to what's in SolidWorks, which is minimum. The minimums are a way to be able to define distances, and you can do an awful lot. But anyway, so you look at that as a rise piece. I mean, that is a distance overall. is definitely not correct. So you look here, bring that back down to here. Let's drop that. And let's drop that to, I don't know, I'm even going to go as bring half of that.
Music
So I'm going to bring that
licensing
back.
reimagined.
About, got to 30. Yeah, I mean that piece and that piece tangent, so we always feel like it's going to remain in its own piece line. Yeah, oh my goodness, look at that. So if I just go 40, bring that back to 20, 25. What I'm doing here is I'm just trying to flesh out roughly how big these things are. Oh God, I mean, oh no, look at this, right? If I go to here, let's just say that the spike in this case goes roughly here, and then I bring this spike down to here. And then what I'll do, just to make sure it's consistent, I'll stay consistent here and here. And that just gives us that little bit of distance across. However, I don't know if you've spotted this, if you look at where that line comes in, the distance to the thickness of this edge should be here. So that tells me that the actual line should sit there.
Artlist.io.
Like that. So you look at that distance, you look at that distance, actual line should sit there like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that as a piece on there, and now I'm going to start refashioning again.
Music
So
licensing
this is going to be
reimagined.
the absolute death of doing this. Right, so go on there. Oh no! Look at that. So that's still too. Oh, hang on. Let's go vision. Let's go to here, do a bit of extrusions. Profile. Hello. Okay. Let's go to here. Edit. Okay. So right. Convert that entity as a piece. Then go on to here. Then let's do an extrusion.
IO.
Here. And then we'll go to this space. We'll go to this space. Then go OK. I'm going to turn the sketch off.
Music licensing reimagined.
Extrusion here is too high. I don't know if anyone can see that, but extrusion there is too high. The spike is way too truncated. Look at that spike there. So looking at that distance between there and there, it's almost half of that. So let's just set it on here. I suspect that that piece here needs to go a little bit bigger anyway. Yeah, it's still too big. So what I'll now do is come back to my sketch, and I'm just going to come over here and see if I can just bring it down a little bit.
IO.
Distance to width on there, too far, so let's go back again.
Music licensing reimagined.
Not perfect, but I'm starting to feel more confident about this. I think my distance on here is way too high, so let's bring it back. Let's drop that down to, let's go 14. Definitely distance there. Bring that down to 38.
Artlist.io.
It's starting to look like the overall piece that I'm after. But you see the difference between what's actually being presented and what's actually there. Now the trouble is this thickness thing. But look. this link point here for where the thumb goes. That I'm still not convinced, but we're starting to look a little bit more developed there, which is incredibly good. So what I'd like to do quickly is just consider these edges chamfered, because the one thing that is very common in all of these designs that I've ever seen so far is everything is either chamfered or covered in fillets. So what I'll do is just jump up a chamfer. Let's go 4mm. Okay, bring it back. Let's just take a look.
Music licensing reimagined.
Slide into the corner. Across. And what I'll do is go for a view and drop over, make it a realistic view. Ah, look at that. Now that's interesting. I just got on perspective. You can see there, that's actually it's actually too high, probably a little bit too small as well, which is good. So if I come back to my sketch, what I'll do is come back onto my sketch here, and we're gonna go, that was too high, so we'll make that 35.
Music
Also
licensing
drop that to 10. Okay, this is starting to look a bit more like what I'm after. Let's bring back on here. Let's drop off my perspective and let's do it here. Right, so we now start to look a little bit more like what we're after. It isn't perfect, but it is a very, very good start. Now, the thing to remember, what we'll be seeing moving forward is this is actually an assembly. So, because it's an assembly, we are going to have to do an awful lot of work with this. Now, I'm just going to scope myself along a little bit, and what I'd like to do is get it to this position, and then I need to do more homework. The reason I say this is because one thing that is completely blatant is the original reference drawing that I was using is not correct. It is not a good reference piece to be using. So I need to just look at, I've now got, in this drawing now, we've now got this section here, but the rest of it is not representative at all. So I am going to have to try and do some more homework to try and figure out where all these key points actually sit. If you do come across any good ideas, do let me know in the comments. I'm more than happy to listen to any suggestions. But what I'll be doing from here is I'm now probably, I'm either going to cut all this away and just start afresh with that section, or what I'm perhaps going to do is just refashion this now. So again, coming here, going on to sketch. I know roughly that it's going to sit to this area because on the drawing itself, it did get to that point, and that big marker here was what was on the original drawing. So I'm going to try and operate to that. But, I don't think it's going to give us any much more than that to really do. So let's see what we do, and I'll bring it onto this point, and bring it all the way down here, and take it to there, and then take it to there, and then to there. I know you're thinking, what the hell are you doing? Just bear with me. Okay. So bring it back, and what I'd like now to do is make a piece here. And I'd like to make a parallel constraint between for the U and U. And then what we're going to do is define what that is, and then make this here. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. No, this.
Artlist.io.
This. That is just a quick
Music
way of me
licensing
defining the
reimagined.
dimension that that's been hit by. So, the distance across there is I've got the length of that, like, yeah, that is no length. The distance across that, let's just set that. So I'm going to set that to something of 150. I want to look at that dimension, and I'm going to guess of a 45 degree from a zero angle of here. So if I go U to U there, and I go 45. I'm now going to fashion a piece. And this distance, I don't really know what this is going to be. But I'm going to just roughly flesh that out and go. We will revisit that. We will need to revisit that. But that just gives us an overall dimensional size. It's incredibly disappointing to find that this piece did not suit like I wanted it to. Because you know when you think, yeah, this is going to be easy. And yeah, it really isn't. It's quite disappointing. So let's first get rid of that. Extrusion and cut the lot. So I'm going to go through all. This might have a problem, but we'll see. Yeah, this is just because of this will make a zero geometry piece there. I understand that. So what I'll do in this case is I'll make an extrusion of this and this and this. And I'm going to flesh this right through. Now I'm still presuming this distance here, so I'm just going to say until we know any different, because again, don't forget this is an investigation. We don't know for sure exactly how big this is going to be. Let's just flip that over. Let's see if it has any issues. Still has issues. Okay, let me just cancel that for a second. Go edit. To here, and I'm just going to that one. And I got one direction. Is that going to do it? Okay.
Music licensing reimagined.
I'm actually not going to do the full anymore. I'm just going to go manual.
Artlist.io.
I think that's because it's not flat. Oh, what could possibly go wrong? Everything according to this. Okay, so let's bring it to there. Again, I'm just focusing on this together at the moment. However, that's where that's going wrong. Okay. So come back onto here.
Music licensing
Sketch. What I'm going to try and do now is tidy this up, and then I need to get off here, get some more work done, just because there is a definite issue with them dimensions. I need to find out some better reference images. It's not a massive setback, but you kind of sit there and go, damn it, it's a bit of a pain in the backside. So what I'll do from here now, I'm just going to here, I'm going to extrude to you.
I.O.
And you. Use that as a cutting tool. Come on. Flesh that out.
Music licensing reimagined.
Oh my guinea ants, swear to God. Okay. So let's just do a blind output then. So let me just see if I can get this in remotely cut.
Artlist.io.
So let's see if we can get this. Subtraction. Cool.
Music licensing reimagined.
Okay, so I'm going to go over here. Go over here. Now look at that. This is an issue. It's actually not seeing these as flat.
Artlist.io.
Okay.
IO.
So they're not flat. Oh, that is a surprise. This is a surprise. So what I will do then is I'm going to have to manually just bring these out. Well, it is what it is. You can't always win. So what I'll do is come to here, to there. Bring
Music licensing reimagined.
That should at least allow for an overall extrusion and cut. We'll soon find out. So that's it all. And here. It's a slight setback, but it is not the end of the road. So what I'll now do on here is bring it on and start going to. So in fact, I'll go right just here.
Music licensing reimagined.
Okay, look at that. So I'm actually feeling pretty good about that. It's not perfect, however, what we are starting to do is see the overall shape. So just for anybody's information or fun, let's say, let's just do a little bit of aesthetics and just check this. So let's get a few circles on here, let's go to here. I'm just going to put a key reference point in. This is the axis to the thumb, I know this. But let's just go 25, it's big, oh, let's go less, so 20.
Music licensing reimagined.
And let's do another piece here. I'll make this tangential to the overall scope right here. Let's do it here. Let's do that dimensional size of 50, maybe less than that. Oh, look at that, because that comes down, so that actually tells me that's a lot less. That height needs to be higher, look at that. That height there needs to be higher. The height there needs to be higher. The height there needs to be higher. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense.
Music licensing reimagined.
So 50. Look at that. So if I come back onto the sketch. Back and I'll just go off 30. Well, that shouldn't be tangent because it's not tangent. So let's just
Artlist.io.
go to here. Make this 30. So make this 30.
IO.
There we go, look at that. So I bring this back now and then we look. I'm going to line this up just roughly to the edge of that key reference point, which is here. Bring it across to here like that. And then let's make you and you
Music
connect.
licensing reimagined.
Distance from the top plate here to here, and make that what? Let's go 20 millimeters. Okay, so this is just for aesthetics, just because we're far from anywhere close to being where we want to be. Let's just give it an overall of how this thing would look.
Artlist.io.
And then what I'll do is take this and this, and give it a colour. This is just to, again, just to make sure it looks something to how I want it to be. Do that, and make that.
Music licensing reimagined.
This is now starting to look a little bit more. Like the piece. It's starting to look even much more like the piece. Sadly, the geometry that we've got from this reference sketch isn't going to do the job. We're going to need to define what that thickness is. I'm going to do a little bit more homework. I'm going to figure out exactly what's going on with that. I hope you've enjoyed this. It's been very insightful. I didn't see some of the sneaky bits coming along. I should let you know, this is not pre-planned. I have not planned any of this, and I thought documenting, rebuilding, reading the sketching process, and how we're going to figure out the sizes for this, I thought would be a lot of fun. And I hope you found this a real benefit. I use these techniques as much as all the time. I use these techniques, and this is something that I've personally been extremely interested in bringing back to life for some time now. And yeah, hopefully this is going to lead to be a little bit profitable endeavour. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed part 2 of the Hardiman project, or Project Hardiman. And yeah, other than that, what we're going to do is I'll get some more joins done, and I'll get some more reference joins together, some more reference images, and yeah, let's see if we can get the arm close to an overall geometric representation. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. I'll see you all next week.
Music licensing